Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Armchair Athletes live stream. We're going to be focusing today on guys who just do not deserve a spot on your fantasy team. My name is Corey of Armchair Athletes. If it's our first time meeting, thanks so much for coming and watching the stream. I want to make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. Those are linked in the description. Like this video as I give you explanations and answer your questions as we go on. It will help me a ton, and I would greatly appreciate it. Comment what questions you have. I want to preface that definitely in the description and the title as well. It says this is a Q&A. I'm going to be focusing on 4 people who I truly don't believe deserve a spot on your fantasy team anymore. But if you have any questions along the way, I will answer them throughout and after my explanations of these 4 players. Also, everybody, make sure you check out the Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube Shorts series that we have going on. I just put them out on Wednesday and Thursday, right before that abysmal Thursday night football game. Dare I call it a football game? That's the second bad one in a row. We were blessed with the Colts and Broncos last week, and now we get the Bears and Commanders just going absolutely nowhere. Commanders ended up winning, or the Bears ended up losing. Not too sure. But now, let's get to it, everybody. The players who deserve absolutely, positively no spot on your team. Really excited for this, and if you have not seen it already, we did some guys who you should be picking up off the waivers, maybe are running under the radar. That still ages pretty well. I mean, it was just a couple of days ago, and we're not yet into week 6, so make sure you check that out as well. I see Max and Joe Mama Productions in the chat. Thank you guys so much for coming and supporting. Appreciate you both, and hope everybody watching enjoys. So without further ado, let's get to the players who do not deserve a spot on your fantasy team. We're going to start with Mark Ingram of the New Orleans Saints. Running back 2 right now behind Alvin Kamara. That seems like pretty common sense. Why on earth would there be a backup running back? Decent amount of people own him. And you know the situation with Alvin Kamara, maybe he gets suspended, maybe he gets hurt. You know, his on-field availability is definitely variable. But let's go over Mark Ingram. He's had 12 or more touches on just 2 occasions between weeks 2 and 4. So that's when Ingram's fantasy stock kind of rose a little bit, if you will. So in that case, you know, in those couple of weeks, maybe I say go with him. That was when Kamara was in and out of the lineup. But the involvement just is not there. Even with the revolving door at quarterback, is it Jameis Winston? Is it Andy Dalton, who's healthy this week? And New Orleans running the ball 43% of the time, which is top 12 in the league. I mean, if Kamara is on the field, just forget it. Absolutely forget it in terms of reps. That's kind of just where I'm at on that. Let's look at Ingram a little bit closer. Okay, his workload, it's just not there. This is snap count percentage. So Ingram is right towards the bottom there, second to the bottom. Tried to keep it above the timeline here for YouTube to make sure all of you can look at him. Yep, there you go. Just dropped him this week. I love to see it. So Ingram's workload just isn't there. He's also a couple of months away from being 33 years old. He turns 33 in December. So if Kamara did miss some time, I mean, that's best case scenario for people who are trying to hold on to dear life with Ingram. Don't expect the Saints to be shoveling 20 to 25 touches in the direction of Mark Ingram, who is just about to be 33. So that's kind of my take on him. I just think the usage is down, and you have plenty of other guys who would deserve a spot on your team, whether it be 10-team, 12-team, 14-team PPR. I mean, you have to dig really deep to try and convince me that Alvin Kamara still deserves a spot on your team. Next guy, I used to be a huge fan of him. Garrett Anderson, thanks for coming in the chat. I'm going to answer your questions ASAP. Just going through some guys who do not deserve spots on your roster at all. I appreciate the subscription so much, my man. I will get to your question in just a moment. So thank you, Garrett, for coming on. So next one, Allen Robinson. For those of you who don't know, I got asked this last stream. I am a Bears fan. Big Allen Robinson guy. Nothing against him personally as an athlete or anything in general. I think he's great. I was advocating all offseason that I believed Allen Robinson would be a clear upgrade from a healthy Robert Woods at the wide receiver 2 position. I mean, you talk about the fact that OBJ took over the wide receiver 2 spot going into the Super Bowl. Nearly would have had Super Bowl MVP if he probably played the whole thing if you watched that game. On this Rams team, through 6 weeks, my take that A-Rob would be better than a healthy Robert Woods is horrible. I will be the first to admit it. Robinson is just barely getting over 2 yards of separation per play, which is not good. I mean, that's per route. And while he's meant for making contested catches, if you watched him in Chicago, I mean, that is, the Mitch Trubisky days and everything like that. I I don't think that Matt Stafford trusts him quite yet, if that makes any sense at all. Trubisky knew that, this is my wide receiver one. So for one, Cooper Kupp is going to be vacuuming in those targets. He gets a guaranteed 10 to 12, if not more per game. You'll see him eclipse 15 once in a while. But two, I mean, Stafford and Robinson just don't have that chemistry yet. It's as simple as that. When you talk about a guy who makes his bread and butter, his bread and butter is making contested catches, establishing leverage on who's covering him. Maybe it's a bigger corner, maybe it's not. I just don't think Stafford fully is invested in that quite yet. And that's kind of what I want to talk about next. So first stat on the left here, that is 2.5 yards. That's his average separation. So when he's running a route, when he hits his break, how much separation can he get on somebody, right? It's not a whole lot. You're seeing a lot of other guys. You're even seeing someone who's on the Bears right now up there, Cole Kmet, 3.8 yards. It's a big issue with Kyle Pitts too. And I've talked about him in the past, and I talked about him actually in my Start 2 Sit 1 series. He's my sit tight end for this week. So a little spoiler there. Still check the rest of it out. It's a good series. But Kyle Pitts, same thing with him. Low in the 2.2 range for yards of separation. I just don't really trust him a heck of a lot, if I'm being honest. It's tough to trust somebody when they're not able to get a ton of separation. They're not getting the targets. And I want to pull up a case of name recognition bias, and we're going to see this a lot. Mark Ingram was a prominent name, and then before we had Allen Robinson as well. So now we're going to talk about Allen Robinson. I was going to spoil the other two. I'm not going to quite yet, but name recognition bias. Okay, so Robinson, how many targets is he getting? How much love is he getting in the fantasy world? That's what we're going to focus on next year. So Allen Robinson, 76th in fantasy in position ranking. So we're talking about average points per game, and then we're considering the amount of games he's played as well. 5.7 points per game. He has only eclipsed double digits on one occasion, and that's because he had a touchdown earlier on in the season. 65.2% as of about 2 hours ago when I took the screenshot for you guys off the ESPN Fantasy Football app. 65.2% of leagues have a team where he is rostered. Now you're thinking, okay, 5.7 points a game. That seems a little preposterous to me personally. So I go shopping around. I'm looking for other wide receivers, and I find this guy, Isaiah McKenzie, wide receiver 3 on the Buffalo Bills, and you have the supposed wide receiver 2 on the Rams, although with targets, you can look those up. It's kind of debatable, and then you have Tyler Higbee hogging a ton of targets too. Isaiah McKenzie, 12.2 points per game to Allen Robinson's 5.7, yet he is only rostered on 38.5% of teams, or in 38.5% of leagues. That is nuts to me. Look at the position ranking as well. Robinson was well up there. Isaiah McKenzie's only at 44 right now because he's actually missed one of the first 5 weeks. He was not playing in the Bills game against Pittsburgh. So this is off 4 weeks. He's averaging a consistent 12.2 points. He's got Gabe Davis ahead of him. He's got Stephon Diggs ahead of him. But when it comes to a guy like Allen Robinson, there's so many moving parts that I just explained to all of you here. It doesn't make sense to me at all. It doesn't make sense to go with a guy who is behind Cooper Kupp, and I'm not going to make that the only excuse, who's also behind Tyler Higbee. He's behind a couple of other guys on occasion as well. He's not able to establish the chemistry that Higbee and Kupp have with Matt Stafford. So when he's in those break routes and he's only getting an average of 2.5 yards of separation, he doesn't have that rapport with Stafford to go, hey, throw it up. Throw me that 50-50 ball. I know I can do it. They just don't have it there yet. It's the same story with Kyle Pitts and Marcus Mariota. With Mariota, in my opinion, it's more of an accuracy issue. I don't think that Mariota is able to fit the ball in those tight windows. I know Stafford can fit the ball in the tight windows. We've seen him do it with multiple guys. Saw him do it with Robert Woods before. We see him do it with Tyler Higbee on a consistent basis, and then Cooper Kupp. He's such an insane route runner. He just kind of gets open, right? Allen Robinson's a great route runner too, but he's more of a gritty guy who's going to try and out-leverage his corner, as we said before. And hey, guys, he just has not been able to do that. It's as simple as that. We'll go to another one. I had beef with this tight end last year because I really trusted him, and as I've looked at him more and more this year, it just doesn't make sense to have him on your team. Mike Gesicki, all right? Mike Gesicki, as you can see, under 10 receptions, hasn't had the best of years so far. It could turn up. He had a slow start last year. I remember week 1 of 2021, he ended up going up against the Patriots. Barely had anything going. The Patriots were phenomenal against fantasy tight ends in 2021. But 9 receptions, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. He has only had 7 targets in his last 3 weeks. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. I know he's had a couple of seasons in a row with over 700 receiving yards, which for a tight end, and if he gets a couple scores with that, it's not too shabby, right? But my issue with Mike Gesicki is just he might have been the definition of inconsistent coming into the year, but now he is consistently underperforming. He's had one single catch in 3 games this year, and in the other 2 contests, he's had 2, and then he had a season high against Baltimore of 4 catches, threw in a touchdown there as well. Here's an issue with Gesicki now. I mean, I'm not just going to say he's horrible when he's on the field. I'm going to supplement that. I mean, I'm not going to say he's horrible on the field in general. I'm going to make my staking claim that Mike Gesicki is not on the field very long. This is snap count, folks. How many snaps is Mike Gesicki on per game the last 4 weeks? So we are looking at week 2, week 3, week 4, and week 5. All right? So 4 most recent weeks, we've got Mike Gesicki. Don't really care about the quantity. I'm looking at the percentage here. And I'm looking at Smythe below him as well. 62% week 2, not too bad. 40%, 44, 54. When you have what some used to consider a mid-tier tight end 1, because the tight end market's tough outside of Mark Andrews, outside of Travis Kelce, outside of your George Kittle if he can come back and get it rolling. I'll put Tyler Higbee up there now as well. When you can have a guy like Mike Gesicki putting up the numbers he used to put up, it's very appealing. This situation is no longer appealing, folks. Gesicki's snap count has been fluctuating around that 50%, like I just said, in the last couple of weeks. And for weeks 3 and 4, if you look, folks, Smythe right below him, he got outsnapped. 74% to 40% for Gesicki. And then 60s, in the 60s for percentage. So a 70s and a 60s for Smythe to Gesicki's 44. It was nearly a clear 50-50 split with a slim margin in favor of Gesicki in the most recent week, week 5. But pile all of this on top of the fact that the Dolphins have gone through 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks over the course of the last few weeks. And I don't like it, folks. I don't like it at all. I really think that there are better options out there. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are also on the same team. I think those two, we can all agree, will take a decent amount of targets. You've just got yourselves a mess of a situation with Mike Gesicki, so not too big of a fan of everything going on with him over there right now. And then numero quattro, my last one before I open everything up to questions and knock out as many as I possibly can for all of you. Thank you all so much for stopping in. If you've subscribed, thank you. I see Garrett subscribed earlier. Thank you. Joanna Productions, you've been a supporter since I started with the shorts a few weeks ago. Appreciate you. And then we have Hudbolt12 asking me a question about a trade and a future trade as well. So my response to one and my take on another. So we'll go with that in just a moment, okay? We've got one left, and this is a big one, and you're probably going to think I'm dumb for even bringing it up. Why would you have Julio Jones on your team, Corey? Why would you? I mean, why is Julio Jones even in the question right now? Many are probably wondering. Well, folks, he's on 42% of teams, so I'll start with that. I think it's a little weird that a guy with 6.7 points, again, is on 42% of teams. But we look at the Allen Robinson situation, right? Clearly being outperformed by Isaiah McKenzie, but he is rostered in so many more. Now, Allen Robinson's younger. Julio Jones is running on 33 right now. And I think that a big thing with him, this isn't going to be a shock to anyone that I say this, is health. But can somebody tell me the secret here? Julio Jones, he's an absolute legend, and he's got a direct route to Canton, Ohio, in my opinion. He's racked up over 13,000 receiving yards in his career, had a Super Bowl appearance, had some magical seasons in the Matt Ryan days, which weren't too long ago in Atlanta. But he should have retired years ago. I'm sorry. Jones cannot stay on the field right now. We're seeing it once again. Look at that up there. He's doubtful. He's played in 2 of 5 weeks so far, and now he's doubtful. I'm not a big fan of just anything going on right now with Julio Jones because he just can't stay on the field. We talk about his legendary career, bottom right. I mean, all power to him, guys. 13,406 yards. That's pretty impressive. Even as recent as 2018, he put up 1,677. In the yards column, people used to make fun of him for the touchdowns thing, but if you're racking up almost, and in that case, over 100 yards per game in the receiving category, I think you got to respect it. Here's my issue with Julio Jones. So not the left column, but the second to left column outside of the wide receiver one. So not his number, which was 11 for a while, then 2, then 6. Look at how many games he's played. In 2022, he's played 2 out of 5. 2021, he's played 10 out of, it was 17, because we switched to a 17-game season last year. 2020, he played 9. This man has not played more than 10 games, so a sizable amount over half a season since 2019. That's way back when Thomas Patrick Brady was on the Patriots. So I am just not a big fan of Julio Jones, judging by the data, judging by the availability It looks like he will now miss 4 of his first 6 weeks in the season. And still, 42% of people out there, 42% of leagues, have a team possessing Julio Jones. I love Julio Jones, everybody, but in my opinion, it's just not feasible to sit here and say, yes, he is going to just come back magically. He's going to be healthy. He made a huge catch in week 1, folks, and then we didn't see him for a while because he got hurt on said catch. He was diving for the ball, hit the ground a little too hard. Look, fatigue is a thing. Age is a thing. Wear is a thing. Wear and tear, especially a man as physical as Julio Jones, whose bread and butter was just making contested catches over guys, being that physical wide receiver who can fight off corners and press coverage. I'm a big fan of who he was. I'm a big fan of who he is, but fantasy-wise, I want absolutely nothing to do with him. But apparently 40% of leagues out there have someone who wants something to do with him. Just holding out hope. Put somebody else there, please. Put an Isaiah McKenzie there. Look what he's done in the past. Let's get to questions, guys. Appreciate all of you being here. Yeah, Joe Mama Productions dropped Mark Ingram this week, so you read my mind, man. I mean, we're not talking on the side or anything, but we're on the same wavelength. Garrett Anderson, PPR 12-team league. Can only start 4. CMC, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Eno Benjamin, and Jeff Wilson Jr., okay? PPR is important. We have two-way guys in here like Alvin Kamara and CMC. Got Kenneth Walker in here, okay. Eno Benjamin, I love right away. It's weird that I'm starting with that one, right? He's going up against Seattle. Allows, I believe it's bottom 3 in fantasy points allowed to running back. So we're going to go with Eno Benjamin. I have him. Monitor that. It says James Conner is questionable, but he has not been really participating in practice. And happy Thursday, everybody. I mean, we're getting pretty close to game day. If he's not putting the pads on, if he's not getting physical, I really don't like that pick at all, to be honest. CMC is usually a given because if he is healthy with his volume, you can do a lot with that. Dalvin Cook. Now, I had this conversation with somebody on the last stream. Dalvin Cook, the issue was, Alexander Mattison slowly creeping up in snap amount. We've got Alvin Kamara. We've got Kenneth Walker is going to be a full go because Rashad Penny's out. Let's check out our matchups here, guys. I want to give you a thorough answer. Appreciate all of it. If any of you here right now can leave a like and subscribe, and I'll get to all of your questions here as fast as humanly possible. Christian McCaffrey, all right, he is going up against the Rams, so we know a little bit about the Rams, the front 7. But he can get outside, too, so I like McCaffrey a lot, Garrett. We're looking at a guy he's got 9, 12 targets in the last 2 games. Before that, he had 5, 4, 4. He's had at least a couple of catches in each game. One of, if not the best receiving back in the league when he's healthy. So let's go with CMC. Let's go with Eno Benjamin. Then we've got Dalvin Cook. And Alvin Kamara is still kind of getting cycled back into this lineup, right? So just kind of doing a little case study between a couple of these guys. Okay. All right, I see the matchups we got here. So, yeah, CMC and Eno, I like. Jeff Wilson Jr., it's weird with, sorry guys, I know I'm bouncing around here, but I think CMC and Eno for sure. With Jeff Wilson, it's weird because Shanahan likes to get a lot of other people involved in the running game, including his wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, the whole wide back thing where he nearly held out for trade because he was being overused. Honestly, Garrett, I'd go CMC and Eno, and after that, 49ers play the Falcons. Falcons defense in general has not been too solid this year, and if Jeff Wilson can get involved in the passing game, I think that's a pretty vulnerable matchup. So I like Jeff Wilson. I can open up my window for you guys in a second here and kind of show you how I research. It's really a variety of things, but I look at run pass percentage. I look at, the strength of the matchup, which is available in pretty much any fantasy app. So that's always dandy, right? Okay. Let's get this up here. If you have just joined, thank you so much. I am answering Garrett's question right now. And I'm going to go a little in depth for you, Garrett, because you took the time to comment here, so I want to make sure I get you a right answer. Let me get as many teams on here as I possibly can. All right, so who are our vulnerables? This is yards per carry allowed by team. Obviously something anybody can look up pretty much. So we know that Jeff Wilson is going up against the Falcons. If you go all the way down here, Falcons are 4.6. We also know that the Rams, that's in play. I would kind of stay away from the Rams in all honesty. I mean, we're still looking at matchups as a whole, looking at a variety of things, but we're going CMC, we're going Eno. I really do like this Falcons matchup. I'm not going to lie to you. I know it looks middle of the pack, but you got to keep in mind teams, their bread and butter is just attacking the Falcons in the passing game. And then when you're beating a team down, as bad as I would expect the 49ers to, I think you get some garbage time and Jeff Wilson can get involved. And this is a note to all of you, really. I am not telling you what to do with your fantasy team, right? I'm just telling you what I would do if I was in that spot. And also, once the game starts, I mean, someone can get hurt. We really can't control what happens on the field. I will stand by this, folks. But what you can do is you can conduct in-depth research and give yourself the best possible chance to win and score points. So, Garrett, I'm going to go CMC. I'm going to go Eno. I like Jeff Wilson. Beyond that, I mean, I'd want somebody with pass catching. So, if you like high ceiling, I think that Kenneth Walker III, we saw what he did at Michigan State. I think he has a really high ceiling. If you want low floor for that fourth option, go with an Alvin Kamara who you know is going to be able to catch the ball. I know the matchup isn't optimal. Dalvin Cook will get a couple catches here and there as well, but we have the snap count percentage going down while Alexander Madison's goes up. I mean, I think Dalvin's still going to get the majority of snaps, but I think Kamara's your low floor, Kenneth Walker's your high ceiling, and in between there is Dalvin Cook. So kind of wherever you want to go on that one, but CMC, Eno, and Jeff Wilson, to me, are all locks. You can definitely do what you want with that information. Let's go down the line here. Gave you a subscription. Yes, again, thank you, Garrett. This man is the GOAT. I appreciate you, Joe Mama Productions. Traded Henry. This is Hudbolt. All right. Traded Henry for Chase and Higbee. Okay. Derrick Henry, you know, the production hasn't been too high in general for the Titans. I know he had a nice week last week, so depending on when you did that, I kind of like it if you sold him high because going into last week, you probably wouldn't have gotten nearly as much volume. You have a top 7, top 8 tight end in Tyler Higbee. You've got Jamar Chase, one of the best big play wide receivers in the league. In the blink of an eye, you could have a 65-yard touchdown, and in PPR, you get 6.5. So it's 6.5 points right there. You get the catch, 7.5. You get the touchdown, 13.5. And that was a common occurrence for him relative to other receivers last year. Going through your team, you got quarterback Lamar Jackson, Dalvin Cook, Madison. So you got the duo in Minnesota. All right. Brian Robinson, shout out. He had a touchdown against the Bears yesterday. Go-ahead touchdown after what he went through a few weeks ago. Jamal Williams. Robinson. Got B-Rob in there twice. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. So we got the Buffalo duo. DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel. Trade Gabe Davis, Brian Robinson. Ooh. So Gabe Davis is a big play wide receiver, right? I feel like either he's going to have a couple catches for triple digits like he did last week. He had like the 90-something yarder, and then he had the 60-something yarder. B-Rob's just coming in, but I think a lot of people are high on him, judging by what he did at Alabama. Him and B-Rob. Is that for Aaron Jones? You have a lot of upside in Gabe Davis. Here's my one thing with Aaron Jones, okay? And I talked about this last week. I'm not, like, extremely low on him. Because Robinson is on the Commanders, right? And he is sharing carries with McKissick, and he is also sharing touches, well, yeah, touches in general with Antonio Gibson. Let's do this. Appreciate all of you watching right now. We'll wrap this up in a bit, but I want to get through as many questions as I possibly can. There it is, folks. Showed the same thing before. 50-50 pretty much in terms of touches between Jones and Dillon. Now, Jones does have the advantage here, obviously, in yards per carry. So out of the backfield, I think he's going to get a lot more rushes. Ironically enough, Dillon has more right now, but you're looking at those goal-to-go situations, your 3rd and 1s, your 4th and 1s. You really need those tough, gritty yards where your 230-something pound running back is just going to put his head down, lower his shoulder, and truck through anything and everything in front of him. Whereas Aaron Jones, he's going to get more involved in the passing game. Not too much discrepancy between the two of them right now, but it is early. He's got his touchdown. I just want you to understand that if you are going to build a package like that, this is for Hudbolt. If you are going to build a package like that, with Aaron Jones, you are getting a guy who is still part of a running back by committee. Now, a lot of running back by committees out there. I mean, let's go through the NFC North, right? You have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, okay? You have David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert with the Bears. You have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And you have Delvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. So it's rare. It is very rare. You've got Jonathan Taylor out there, and even Hines gets his touches. Derrick Henry's pretty much by himself. It's a select few. So if you are all right understanding that there's going to be a target share there and a touch share with A.J. Dillon, which, I mean, hey, look, 75 through 5, that's 15, if my math is correctly, through 5 weeks. So if you're okay with that, he's still getting his touches. This run game in Green Bay is still going to be very heavy because there is no Devontae Adams, and I think Aaron Rodgers is still trying to develop some chemistry with guys like Romeo Doubs. Even with Allen Lazard in that new wide receiver one slot, at least for now, hot take, guys, I think Romeo Doubs takes over that wide receiver 1 spot. You'll open up that depth chart one Sunday morning and see it differently. So I say it's pretty much a wash. I mean, in PPR, you're going to get Aaron Jones involved in the passing game as well, and he's been pretty explosive early on. So you've got Diggs, you've got Samuel. If Moore has a good week, I have Moore somewhere on one of my, I think I have 4 teams. I'm looking at possibly trading him high if he has a good game because it's just a mess over there in Carolina right now. But you've got Diggs, you've got Samuel. Adding to that backfield, I think if you had Cook and then you went and got Aaron Jones, I like that. I think it's pretty much a wash. I think both sides get what they want. Max, speaking of someone on my fantasy team that isn't producing, it's Kenneth Gainwell. Just dropped him. No idea why I picked him up week 3 and dropped him last week. He just can't produce big numbers. All right, Max, let's do a little case study on Kenneth Gainwell. Miles Sanders is a top 10 running back right now, so he's probably getting the majority of touches for that reason, if I had to guess. Welcome to the stream. If you are on here, if you are commenting, I will get to your comments soon. I appreciate all of your support. Make sure you like and subscribe. I do shorts on YouTube pretty much every day, diagnosing different fantasy football situations, diagnosing different contexts, just trying to give everybody the best chance to make educated decisions on a weekly basis with their team and ultimately give them the best chance to win. All right, Max. Here we go. It's all about that time on the field, right, Max? So we have snap percentage. Miles Sanders, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's really not getting a whole lot until the last couple of weeks because he has been blowing up. So now the Eagles are starting to realize, Sirianni is going, all right, maybe we give it to our guy here. If you look at Gainwell, that's a modest amount for a reserve running back. 30%, then it goes to 26, then it goes to 31. Then Miles Sanders really starts popping off. Okay? Week 3 and week 4. That's where his production ticks up. That's when he really started to take off and have some good weeks. He had an average one in there. Then we got 27%, and then we got 22%. Yep, Max, nobody on your team should have this low usage. So if you see guys, I talked about this in my case study with Mike Gesicki earlier. If you see a guy's production dropping immensely, and there's no debate here. I mean, the guy is Miles Sanders. This is another one I would say is really not a running back by committee. You see Boston Scott running there every once in a while. He hasn't played in a couple weeks. So he's been out. This is not a running back by committee. This is 75-25 pretty much, 74-22. So avoid ones like that. If you have guys involved like Jamal Williams, not opposed to that. He's been a touchdown hog. Has at least 6 touchdowns. And DeAndre Swift's in and out with some injury issues. Sanders has been pretty durable so far. His production's been ticking upwards, and he's been handling the situation well. So, Max, that was a good move by you. I don't think that this is going to change anytime soon in terms of Gainwell's reps. And if you're not getting the ball, if you're not even on the field, if you are on the field for 22% of plays, it's very hard to get chances. You would need a fluke touchdown. Joe Mama Production. Should I start Zay Jones or Randall Cobb? Zay Jones is questionable right now. We'll have to monitor how he is doing in practice. Randall Cobb has been getting more targets as of late, so let's look at his situation. So despite being in that loss against the Giants, it was more pass heavy towards the end. The Packers, for the first time this year, really just abandoned the run. He had 13 targets. That's a season high by far. He had 3, 3, 2, and 4 before that. 7 receptions on those 13 targets for a season high 99 yards. So one thing I want to talk to you guys about is try not to chase points unless there is reason for it. What I mean by that, this looks really appealing right now. Randall Cobb, and I'm not saying don't, we'll talk about this in a second, but Randall Cobb, 16.9 points last week. My goodness. Why was that? Because the Packers did something that is very uncharacteristic of them. Towards the end of the game, they just started abandoning the run. That's when you do more in-depth research. Is LaFleur talking? Matt LaFleur is one of the most receptive coaches when it comes to these types of questions. Reporter goes, LaFleur, what went wrong? How do you fix this? You ran the ball 90% of the time in the fourth quarter. I'm making stuff up. He will tell you, hey, I'm going to change it. Hey, I'm not going to change it. So if you see something like that from him, which I can't recall off the top of my head, that he's going to go back to the run game a little more, so be it. Packers run the ball a decent amount. I mean, we just talked about this with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Why do they both get so many touches? It's not because they're getting receiving targets here and there. They just run the ball a ton. I mean, if we look at this, hold on. And this was not the case before, because when you have one of the best receivers in the game, and Davante Adams, you're not going to do it. Just a moment, folks. There it is. Run pass percentage. So go all the way down. Green Bay, 21st in pass percentage. So they throw it 57.5% of the time, and they'll run it 42.5% of the time. So Joe Mama Productions, I would not expect Randall Cobb to get a heavy dosage, but considering he was one of the most productive wide receivers on this team last week, then you've got Zay Jones, who is questionable and is on the same team as your Christian Kirk, as your Marvin Jones, as Evan Ingram, who's actually been taking off. I think that Randall Cobb has a lower floor because the Indianapolis Colts have allowed the least amount of fantasy points to wide receivers this year. I like Cobb a little more. I am not crazy about him because I think that we caught lightning in a bottle, a flash in a pan. He's a little older, and the Packers abandoned the run. I don't see either of those guys, I'm going to be transparent with you, having a great week, but I would take Cobb with a guy like Aaron Rodgers who spreads the ball out a lot more, especially now, than a Zay Jones, who's questionable, has a loaded wide receiving core, and is facing the #1 defense against fantasy wide receivers so far through the first few weeks. So that's what I would go with. Garrett Anderson, I got a good feeling about Eno too. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, he's going up against Seattle. Seattle is just gifting rushing yards. They deserve a Nobel Peace Prize with how much they're giving them away. So, Adam Weber, thank you for stopping in. Who should I drop from my bench to pick up the Pats defense for my next week? Eagles up. Okay, Eagles by Michael Carter, Alexander Madison, Romeo Doubs, Corey Davis, Mike Boone, and Pierce. Alec Pierce has been doing well on the Colts. He's been getting more targets, but there is Michael Pittman there as well. You also have to start asking the question, okay, the Colts aren't doing so well. What were they doing the last time they did well and actually made the playoffs, which was with Phillip Rivers? They were running the ball a ton. It was all through Jonathan Taylor. When Matt Ryan is throwing the ball 30, 40 times in the game, that's not the best recipes for success, and I think they're starting to notice that. Who do you drop? Who do you not drop? We'll do a little process of elimination. Romeo Doubs is establishing himself as the #1 wide receiver on the Packers. Not that means much right now because it's so evenly distributed, but he actually has passed Allen Lazard in targets right now. Boone is going to get Boone is going to get extra targets because just the line of order, the pecking order, right? Javonte Williams is gone, and Melvin Gordon is coming in, but Melvin Gordon's not going to get exactly all the touches. And we'll look at this real quick. Like that stream and subscribe, everyone. I'm going to get to all your questions very soon. Appreciate every single one of you stopping in. My name's Corey. If it's your first time here, this is called Armchair Athletes. We do a lot of fantasy football analysis. We'll start breaking out some basketball teams too. And NBA season starts really soon, so we'll have some separate things going for that. Just going to get an answer here for one of your comments. Here's why I wouldn't drop Mike Boone. Kind of hard to see, but in the parentheses here, that's his touches over the course of the last 4 weeks. Nothing, 4. Javonte goes down, 10. Also, look up there. Javonte is not the only one who's hurt. Melvin Gordon now. So, again, if he goes down, Mike Boone's the guy. He's also hurt. And you've got a guy in Mike Boone who, in very limited time, is already kind of creeping up on these two guys who have played the majority of the season when it comes to involvement in the passing game. He runs a lot of routes. So I like Mike Boone on your team. I like Romeo Doubs on your team. Alec Pierce is kind of a question mark. Corey Davis, they don't pass a whole lot in New York. So I'll give you this, actually. Michael Carter's not getting used a whole lot because Breece Hall has been a beast. Alexander Madison, he's getting a little more snaps, but I don't think they're ever going to stray away from Dalvin Cook. If I'm you, I'm getting rid of Corey Davis. He's going to get involved in that offense once in a while, but Zach Wilson is just not a 400-yard-a-game guy, 350, anything like that. The reason they won 40-17 against the Dolphins is A, because they were down to their third quarterback, and B, because they ran the ball a ton and got Breece Hall involved in the passing game, which he led in that game as well. So Carter or Davis, I think, get abandoned. I would actually lean Carter because Breece Hall has just been such a beast. I think we're a couple more good weeks away from New York not being a running back by committee team. So Pierce, I don't blame you for either because you got Pittman, but Pierce has been hot with targets, taking advantage of opportunities as a rookie. So we'll see. Thank you, Adam. I do appreciate that. Leaning towards dropping Pierce, I can't blame you with that one. Like I said, Carter and Davis would be on my list too in that order, but Pierce is up there too. Definitely hold on to Doubs and Boone. They're going to get more involvement very soon and have been. Alyssa Jones, hey, cuz. Oh, that's my cousin. How are you? Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it. Garrett, I guess this is a good problem to have. Yeah, it is. Garrett, it's a very good problem to have when you have so much talent like that, and you probably have 4 to 5 guys who are going to have really good weeks. So, like I said before, I like CMC. I love Eno's matchup. Jeff Wilson, I think, has some opportunity against the Falcons, and then from there, it's kind of, you pick what you want, buddy. I mean, I think you've got a lot of good options there for sure. Alyssa, would you play Taysom Hill at tight end with Darren Waller on a bye? I'd probably play Taysom Hill at tight end with Darren Waller playing. He's been horrible. Darren Waller's not been getting targets. Did not get targeted before. Been in and out with some injuries. Devontae Adams is going to be that vacuum just like Cooper Kupp is on Los Angeles, kind of that Allen Robinson situation. And Tyler Higbee, with that Allen Robinson situation, is the second guy who's taking over. If we go to the Raiders, it's Devontae Adams, and it's Hunter Renfrow. And then from there, maybe Darren Waller. He's kind of the one who got left out of the pecking order, and even Hunter Renfrow has not been getting much. Would I play Taysom Hill? Let's look. They're getting Taysom Hill involved, as they have been, for a while. Honestly, Hill's got one. I was going to say, they've ran it. I think they've used him on the ground a little more than anything else. They kind of just use him for everything. Alyssa, if you're still here, what other options? What are some tight ends on the waiver wire? Because I feel like Hill is such a wild card. They're going to get him a lot involved, but if you're a fantasy owner, it's not too attractive unless you know he's getting a lot more playing time. Let's come to that. It's because he's a Bears fan. What are you knocking me for now? Oh my gosh. Shane and Devin, thanks for coming in and leaving questions. Appreciate you. So, Alyssa, my question to you is what other tight ends are available? Taysom gets the ball a lot on the ground. Let's look at what he does there. I'm just curious, though. I'm not saying no to Hill, but I'm curious because you're probably in a PPR league, as most are. But it's weird with Hill because he tore up a Seattle team that gives up the most, I believe it's the most, or it's the bottom 3 when it comes to most points in the league to running backs. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to go for, 9 rushes for 112 yards and 3 touchdowns. But they've also got Kamara back. I think it's going to be Hill over Ingram in terms of reps. Going against Cincinnati. So if they're using Hill just in the run game, Hill is a hack. I will say that. Tyreek Hill is a fantasy hack because he's going to get, tight ends typically don't get rush yards unless you're putting him in a fullback situation, stacking up full house. It's like first, second, or third and goal. On second. I'm just curious to see what Cincinnati's done against the run. I know they've got Trey Hendrickson off the edge. Yeah. Cincinnati's allowing 4.2 yards per carry. Top 10 in the league. 10th best in the league. Yeah. 119 rushes for 498 yards. 1 touchdown on the ground through 5 games. That's pretty impressive, especially considering that they just went up against the Ravens, whose identity is pretty much the run, especially with the Bateman injury. I mean, it's Mark Andrews, and then it's Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins. So, Alyssa, I'm indifferent. I mean, a tight end getting 9-10 points in this day and age is pretty respectable, especially when your tight end is on a bye. So I would say maybe Taysom, but check out your waiver wire. If you see somebody else with an optimal matchup who's going up against, I love to look at what teams allow the most fantasy points to tight ends because that's such a unique thing. How's their linebacker coverage? You're typically going to have a linebacker lining up in coverage on them, or if they're playing zone. Are the tight ends on the other teams able to find the holes? So that's kind of why I like to look at that. If you can't find anything, and you can always run it by me, folks. I know this is a live chat right now. Once this is archived, I save these videos. Go in the comment section, and I will respond to you. I'll conduct some research for you, just like I am right now. This is pretty much just homework hour. I'm doing the homework for you guys, putting all the information I feel I need to put in front of you for you to make a good decision, and then giving my suggestions along the way. But you don't have to do anything I say, obviously. So, yeah, I like Taysom Hill to an extent. It really just depends on the market of tight ends who are available. Don't love him because Cincinnati's decent against the run. But with Darren Waller on the bye, I mean, sometimes you just got to bite it when it comes to who is available. So keep me updated on that. If you see this, type it in chat. I'll get to you during the live stream. Otherwise, comment if you come back to see this. Comment, and I'll let you know, out of the ones who are available, is there a better option in my opinion? How have they thrived? What are they doing against the opposing defenses? What have those defenses allowed to tight ends? That type of thing. Shane, hey, how's it going? Going good, Shane. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate you. Should I trade Josh Jacobs and Jerry Jeudy for Jamar Chase? My roster consists of Kyler Murray, Cooper Kupp, Jerry Jeudy, Allen Lazard, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, A.J. Dillon, Travis Kelce, Michael Gallup, Josh Reynolds, I'm assuming, Pacheco over in Kansas City, James Conner, and White. Okay. From the Bucks, I'm assuming. Shane, that's a nice team. I don't know how many teams are in your league, but should I trade Josh Jacobs and Jerry Jeudy for Jamar Chase? Jerry Jeudy is always interesting to me because the Broncos wide receiving core in general just gets hurt a lot, but in Jerry Jeudy's young career, he has been hurt a very decent amount. I really like your team, though. Cooper Kupp. I mean, you've got 2 guys who are the best in the league at their position usually, and that's Cooper Kupp, who is number 1, and then Travis Kelce, who's right up there. So you're looking for a big-name wide receiver to go. Kupp and Chase would be. I ended my season with Kupp and Chase somehow. I started, making trades with people who were lower in my league. Just saying, hey, I can give you some more depth here as we go into next year. And it worked out pretty well. So I ended up winning that one. For Chase. Let's do a little math here. Are you going to get, so you're giving up 2 guys for 1. Are you going to get that same amount of point range? Are you going to have a low floor? That's my big thing, right? Especially with big play wide receivers like Chase. Are you going to have a low floor, and are you going to make up the deficit that you would get? I'm assuming you're not starting Josh Jacobs and Jerry Jeudy on a consistent basis. Jacobs had a decent week last year. So if we're talking PPR, Shane, which I'm assuming we are, yeah, we got 30-plus points in his last 2 weeks, man. I almost want to hold on to Jacobs with how many touches he's been getting. He had over 30 touches in week 4. He had 26 touches in week 5 against Kansas City. So against the Denver and Kansas City defenses. Got the bye week, and then you come back and play Houston, who's decent on defense, I should say. New Orleans, Jacksonville, Indy is going to be tough. Denver again. Seattle is going to be a great day to be a running back for Josh Jacobs. Chargers, Rams, Patriots. Okay. And then Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is the one I'm going to focus on here. I think Josh Jacobs is a phenomenal player. I think you could almost get Ja'Marr Chase for Josh Jacobs. So now it's a matter of, okay, is Jerry Jeudy a monkey off your back? Or do you think you are providing some decent value? Because if you think he's decently valuable based on what I'm about to show you, go get more. Don't just get Ja'Marr Chase. Targets is what I want to focus on with Jerry Jeudy. 29 targets, and actually catch percentage too. Him and Russ have not been getting on the same page. Cortland Sutton's been having a phenomenal start. 14 receptions and 29 yards. That's usually a sign of just lack of chemistry. We're seeing the same thing with Allen Robinson. And Matt Stafford, we're seeing the same thing with Kyle Pitts and Marcus Mariota. 14 for 29, not too appealing with 2 touchdowns. He gets a couple more receptions and he's up there. 14 receptions, but he's really being looked at a lot. Ja'Marr Chase is in a 1A, 1B, 1C wide receiving core. So that's another thing we need to keep in mind. It's not always going to be him. Sometimes it'll be Tyler Boyd's day. Sometimes it'll be T. Higgins' day. So that's something I want you to consider for sure. So I want you to understand how much Ja'Marr Chase is getting the ball. How he's been doing, you probably know because you're going after him and you've probably had your eye on him for a while, and we saw what he did in his rookie season. Now, right now, that 1A, 1B, 1C, actually, the B is Hayden Hurst, tight end, who I've been telling people to look at. 53 targets, 60% catch rate. I mean, he's being beat by Hurst and Higgins, but it doesn't really impact the 2 LSU teammates. Him and Burrow, I feel like, are always going to have that connection. 343 yards, so we're looking at almost 70 yards per contest through 5 weeks. Targets-wise, we got 9, 10, 6, and 12. If Jeudy makes a couple more of those catches, here's what I'll say, okay? I like Josh Jacobs a lot, especially with how he's been doing lately. The Raiders and Josh McDaniels seem to be responding to that, giving him 30-plus touches and then 25-plus touches the next week against Kansas City. He's got some optimal matchups coming up, including against Seattle. I mean, that's a really, really good matchup. Look what I said about Eno Benjamin if you were here before. He's facing Seattle. Full confidence in the guy to be able to make some guys miss in the open field and have a big day. I think you can get more, Shane. I really do. He might throw in a running back. He better throw in a running back. It should at least be a wash. You should be getting something very good back for Jacobs. I mean, honestly, with what you're offering, let's line them up. Jeudy to Chase, that's a pretty big gap. I mean, you're going from a I would say top 5 to top 10 wide receiver, depending on Chase's consistency this year, to Jeudy, who I would say is top 30, 35, just because of health issues so far. So I'll give you, you're getting a deal in Chase there. But you're giving up a top 5 fantasy running back right now in Josh Jacobs with him, scoring 30 points in the last couple of games. Yeah, he's ranked 4th in PPR right now. Gets involved in the passing game here and there as well. He better throw in a running back, otherwise don't take it, Shane. I really like Jacobs long term. I can understand the appeal in getting rid of Jeudy and trying to package him with someone. But if you're going to go for one player with both of those guys, I would say Cooper Kupp is acceptable. I would say Travis Kelce is acceptable, but honestly, I'm going to say Cooper Kupp's acceptable, and then maybe like Jonathan Taylor in his prime if he was performing better right now. Not even Derrick Henry because we're in PPR. So get more. If you want to get rid of Jacobs and Jeudy, I understand that. You want to have another big play wide receiver next to Kupp. You have Kupp. So I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a deal in my head where you only get one player back and it's fair for you. Try and get somebody else too. Devin Bush, thank you for coming in. Should I trade Debo and Zeke for Dalvin Cook and Brandon Cooks? My wide receivers are Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Jahan Dotson. Okay. My running backs are Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Raheem Mostert, who's been popping off, and Melvin Gordon. I forgot I also have Gallup. Good wide receiving core, man. Seriously, Devin, you've got Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, and Michael Gallup, who I think is going to get a lot more targets now he's coming back in. Then you've got Dak coming back in the next week or two. Devin responding to Shane, I feel like you're losing that trade, giving up Jeudy and Jacobs for Chase, who hasn't been playing like he was last year. I agree. And Devin and Shane, Chase is having a good year, but when you mark it next to what he did last year, his rookie season, I mean, that's up there with Justin Jefferson, his old LSU teammate for a year or two. So yeah, I don't know if there's a player out there because you have Cooper Kupp, back to Shane for a second, that I would go after and accept when giving up Josh Jacobs and Jerry Jeudy, with Jerry Jeudy is just a couple receptions away from doing well as well. And Russ has been playing some tough defenses too. I mean, he just came off playing against the Colts, who have the best pass defense in the league. So when it comes to fantasy points, get a package, get a 2 for 2, and get a good 2 for 2. Don't let them throw someone in there like even a James Robinson, because ETN's starting to take over now. Don't allow that. Make sure they're durable. Make sure it's somebody with some upside and a low floor too, because Josh Jacobs is popping off right now. I mean, his value's high. I understand why you're doing it. It's high value, but get something for that at the same time. Get something for that high value. That's the purpose of dealing someone. He also has Godwin. You're going to want someone, in my opinion, in the backfield too. You've got Jacobs. So you'd have Walker, Dillon, Connor. Connor's had some injury issues. That's why Eno's playing now. Yeah, you're trying to load up on wide receiver too. I mean, it's going to be PPR, I'm assuming, Shane. It's got to be 2 good wide receivers. If you get Jamar, like Devin brought up, he's not on the pace that he was last year. Get another good one. I mean, I'm trying to think through guys here. Godwin's been hurt a little bit here and there too. I mean, I doubt they give up Chase and Evans, but you could push for that. Always go into trades, seeing, how you can improve their standing. Put it that way. Don't come in and say like, hey, I want this. What do I have to fork over to get it? Go the other way, because it'll just make the process a lot easier. Yeah, you got to get 2. If you want to get 2 wide receivers, that's you, man. It's PPR, and I think you're trying to stack up with Kupp, which is really going to be intimidating for the person going against you. From a running back standpoint, you're just going to have to hope that Walker's the guy, so you got one staple starter. A.J. Dillon's getting about 50% of those carries. You got White and Connor. Connor should be that second guy if he stays healthy. Reason Connor did so good last year is because he had so many touchdowns, so keep that in mind. Get 2 people, though, Shane, no matter what. Chase and Godwin. I still think they win that. If you give them Jacobs and Jeudy, it's closer, but I think you can get more. I do. Yep. Especially, and if they ask why, I say, Godwin's been hurt. I mean, come on. Like, give me a little more here. Give me somebody who I know is going to get some playing time, because Josh Jacobs has been lighting the world on fire, and Russell Wilson has been playing some tough defenses. I think he gets on the same page as Jerry Jeudy, who's been averaging roughly 6 targets per game. So that's what I go with there. Mr. Curly Wolf, thanks for coming in. Make sure you like and subscribe. I do these live streams on a weekly basis. I do YouTube shorts pretty much every day, just analyzing the absolute crap out of your fantasy team's situations in fantasy, where I think certain guys are in optimal situations, inoptimal situations. When should you deal somebody? When should you go for somebody? Doing a lot of in-depth homework for you guys, trying to give you the best chance to win, the best information that you need in front of you to win. And then we'll be doing, some baseball, some basketball, everything like that. Just really focusing on fantasy football right now because it's the meat of the season. So back to Devin. Should I trade Deebo Samuel and Zeke for Dalvin Cook and Brandon Cooks, the 2 Cooks? Brandon Cooks is the wide receiver 1, and you have Kupp, Waddle, and Dotson. Okay. Brandon Cooks is the wide receiver 1 on a pretty bad team. And typically bad teams, I went over this before, are going to throw the ball a lot. Thank you, Mr. Curly Wolf. I appreciate that. I try and, it's all research-based. I'm not going to go off on a whim or anything. His ROPS. Okay, Shane, I'm going to go back to you super quick, and then I got you, Devin. His roster is Mahomes, Chase, Godwin, Ayuk, Edmonds, Henderson, Tanyan, Dobbs, Carter, Swift, Deontay. DeAndre Swift is still out, so this will be... Well, they have a bye this week. I almost say hold off and see what DeAndre Swift's status looks like going into week 7. He's got a full week to rest. When he is completely healthy, you saw what he did in the first couple weeks. If you can go after Chase and Swift, I think you win that trade by like a hair. But I think you can get some more value out of it. That's why I go with Shane. So Devin, we're looking at Deebo Samuel and Ezekiel Elliott for Dalvin Cook and Brandon Cooks. So let's analyze this straight up, right? You're looking for a running back and a wide receiver, and you're giving up as such as well. Deebo Samuel, I am valuing over Brandon Cooks by a decent amount because he works in the Kyle Shanahan offense, meaning both scenarios, run or pass, he's going to get the ball. In run, Shanahan loves to get him involved in the run on jet sweeps, end arounds. He'll even put him straight up in the backfield, run I formation, and just use him in general. Okay? So then you're trying to go from Zeke to Dalvin Cook. Big topic of conversation in fantasy. Has been. And I'm going to look it up for you guys here. Sorry, I just stop in the middle of sentences like that sometimes when I'm typing. Big topic of conversation in the fantasy world and football world in general has been the workload distribution between Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is no longer just a guy who can make 1 or 2 good plays a game. I mean, he is getting, if you look at it here, 51, 86. Looking at those touches. He's getting 37% of the touches right now, and it's just those two. Dowdle's not in right now. Pollard has been more productive than Zeke. Zeke is getting paid more, so they're going to consider that. But then again, you can always write out his contract, try and work out something with another team. This is what we do, guys. We consider context around each of these players. See why you're trying to deal Zeke. Yes, Google. Just take me to the bar. I want to look at usage because this is where you're supposedly getting the upper hand, right? This is what you're thinking. You're thinking, I want to get away from Zeke and go towards Dalvin, a guy who's established. So Tony Pollard was getting 37% of the touches, right? So here's what we'll do. This is what we do, folks. Who is getting the ball? %37 is going to the backup, so about 63 is going to Ezekiel Elliott. Here we look at Madison to Cook. All right. So a little more to Cook. %29 of the time it's going to Madison. So 79-ish, 78-ish% of the time it's going to Cook. So 78%. And then you're going over to a guy in Ezekiel Elliott who's getting the ball 63% of the time out of the backfield. So it's an upgrade from Dalvin. Here's what I would say, Devin. Zeke for Dalvin's good for you. Try and get a little more for Deebo because Deebo is heavily involved in that offense. And Brandon Cooks, while he does serve as the wide receiver 1 for a team that is working from behind a lot, one, Davis Mills is not protected. You see that man getting sacked a ton. That offensive line is constantly cycling. And 2, they love Dameon Pierce. So even though they're a losing team, they have been ground and pound. They've been running the ball a lot more than most losing teams would. So if you want to deal Deebo and Zeke for some value, get Dalvin. Shoot higher in that wide receiver pool. You've got Kupp. Yeah, you've got Kupp and Waddle. Get yourself a good 3 or even a 2. Go after... You probably won't get him. Started a Mike Evans. I mean, he's consistently quiet. He's getting those 1,000-yard seasons every year. He's in there. Chris Godwin. I'm not sure what this other guy has. So here, 1 second. Yeah, go for a better wide receiver if they have it. I would go better than Cooks. So push in for that. If not with Cooks, look for a good third depth option. So Devin, that's good. Yes to Dalvin Cook. Push for more than Cooks. That's my answer for you there. And I know you've got Gallup too, but I don't think Cooks is suitable. I mean, with that deal, with how much Deebo Samuel offers, it's close. It is close, but Brandon Cooks has had some quiet games. Mr. Curley giving up, excuse me. Need a running back 2 and flex. J-Rob, ETN, DJ Moore, Michael Carter. Okay, we're picking from these. James Robinson, ETN on the same team. Let's make our decision there. Because while the Indianapolis Colts have the best pass defense against fantasy wide receivers, the rush defense is a little more inferior. So let's go. I'm going to answer a couple more and then get off, guys, but I will archive these comments, and you can just count on, or you can comment again after the video's done if you want to do as well, and you can count on me answering those ASAP. Appreciate all of you coming in. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I do these pretty consistently. I like to do, injury reports, waiver, targets, and then people that deserve no spot on your team, which is what the beginning of this video was about. But then at the end, I always conduct a Q&A because I want to see what's going on with your teams, what information I can offer you, all that good stuff. Target share for the Jaguars. As of late, it's been literally 50-50, but ETN's a more productive back. And ETN gets more involved in the passing game. Heavily. Without that touchdown, he is blowing James Robinson out of the water with those 124 yards if you look at a fantasy value. Go ETN out of those two if you're me. Oh, lost you. Okay. And then DJ Moore or Michael Carter. Breece Hall's been a beast. DJ Moore did get in the double digits last week. Just not having the season people expected from him. 17 receptions, 37 targets. Baker just has not been able to find him. Another one of those situations, right, guys? Low catch percentage, but it's a new quarterback wide receiver combo. I mean, DJ Moore's been there a while, but he hasn't caught passes from Baker Mayfield before this year. So I like ETN, Mr. Curly Wolf, and then Carter. Is Carter getting used as much as we want him to be in this matchup? Playing against the Packers, so you're dealing with a Rashawn Gary. Packers didn't do too good against the run last week, but it was against a healthy Saquon Barkley, which is pretty scary. And I don't think we can sit here and call Michael Carter and Saquon Barkley of the same talent. Okay. Oh, it's tough. Because Panthers are playing the Rams. Michael Carter doesn't really get used a whole lot anymore. Got 12 touches last week for a whopping 5.3 points, it looks like, if I'm doing math right in Pro Reference here. Yeah, bye crushing you. I feel you, man. It's going to get to that point between weeks like 6 and 12 where we're just going to be struggling. Like, I got the Eckler and Herbert combo, and when the Chargers are on bye, I am going to be going through it. ETN. I think the Rams win this by a decent amount because the Panthers just haven't been good. Although the Rams have been struggling too. Let's go DJ Moore. I think you could honestly go either way with that one. I do like ETN more because of the production. He's got better yards per carry, and he has more action out of the passing game. But honestly, man, use your best judgment on that one. I hate to say that. DJ Moore and Carter are pretty much a wash for me. Carter got 10 rushes last week for 21 yards. Now he has to face the Packers. Breece Hall's been going off. ETN for sure, in my opinion, because he's more involved and he's starting to take over that spot. And Shane, back to the deal there. Yeah, his roster is Mahomes, Chase, Godwin, Ayuk, Turo. Yeah, again, with that, Shane, I like the Swift one. If he can stay healthy, monitor that. Don't rush this. This trade is something you want to get a lot of value on, so he can wait the buy. Or she can wait to buy, whoever your partner in this trade is. Jesus Christ of the league. Thank you for coming on. Mark Andrews and Courtland Sutton for Jamar Chase and Aaron Jones. Mark Andrews is a top 2 tight end right now, and Courtland Sutton's a top 10 wide receiver. He's one of my starts this week, actually, because of the matchup he has. Russell Wilson, he hasn't been doing much right, but he's been getting to Courtland Sutton. That's been his guy. That's been his gel. That's been the person he's been leaning on in his first year in Denver. You have 2 top 10 people at their positions there. Chase has been spotty. Aaron Jones is splitting with A.J. Dillon. So to answer your question, I think Andrews and Sutton have far more value right now, in my opinion. Chase is part of that 1A, 1B, 1C. And the rest of the wide receiving core has been a little hurt, so you're seeing Chase with more targets. I think that evens out. You even have Hayden Hurst doing well. So I think Mark Andrews and Courtland Sutton, if you have them and you're trying to deal them, one, you probably have a really good team, but two, get more back. Get more than Ja'Marr Chase and Aaron Jones. Shoot higher than Aaron Jones, somebody who's still splitting touches with A.J. Dillon. For those, dude, you could get a Saquon. I mean, it depends on, right, if Ja'Marr and Saquon probably aren't on the same team. If they have Ja'Marr, Saquon, and Aaron Jones, and you have Mark Andrews and Cortland Sutton, you both are going to see each other in the championship because that's a pretty good set right there, but that's what I would do. PPR, by the way, thank you, man, by Mr. Curly Wolf. Yep, no problem. Like ETN, from there, just kind of look at it the way it is. I know it's tough with the bye weeks kicking in. Adam Thompson, thanks for stopping in. Trade Mixon and Hollywood Brown for Jonathan Taylor. Half PPR league. I'm in one of those. Okay. Currently I have Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Walker III, Melvin Gordon. And you got Higgins, Brown, Higgins, Godwin, St. Brown, and Brown for wide receivers. I did read that. Thanks in advance. No problem, Adam. Hollywood Brown's usage is going to be interesting because I think when DeAndre Hopkins comes in, are we really going to see him take over the number one spot right away? Is there any rust? I mean, between him and Kyler, they had such a good connection last year, and Brown's the new kid in town. So I think Brown's still going to get a decent amount. The number one corner is going to go over and cover Hopkins. Mixon is averaging like 3 yards a carry right now, so not too high on him. Both of those for Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, I want to look ahead and not behind because he's had a rough start. But if you look at what he can do over the course of the year, I mean, this is on track to be his worst year, but we're so early, guys. Goes against the Jags, then the Titans. I mean, they're in the weak AFC South. Commanders, Patriots, Raiders, Eagles, Steelers, who have been really weak, especially without TJ Watt on that front. Cowboys, that'll be tough. Vikings, that is Swiss cheese. Chargers, without Joey Bosa, that he'll be back by then. Pretty sure, at least. Giants, Texans. See if they can throw in a depth piece. I think Hollywood Brown's put together some pretty good production, but that's pretty even right now. Half PPR is important because you still have some of that involvement, but it's not as much emphasized on the pass, and Jonathan Taylor could be more involved in the pass right now. Joe Mixon's just been not very productive. He's still been getting the rushes, but that O-line is, again, allowing Joe Burrow to get murdered, and Joe Mixon to not be able to get a whole lot of yards in general. I mean, it's just very rough back there. Get more. I think you could push for more, but that's pretty close, Adam. I think you can get more. I understand you're trying to have that Swift, Walker, and Taylor trifecta. That'd be pretty cool. You've got a great team, by the way. I wanted to say that before. Higgins, Godwin, St. Brown, and Brown. I'm assuming A.J. Brown. That's pretty solid. So try and get a second piece, a 2 for 2. You can't really shoot much higher than Taylor when it comes to running backs. I mean, Saquon and CMC, I'm still scared of them getting hurt, but we'll kind of see. Shoot a little higher. Even with Mixon, you could shoot a little higher. Guy that I'm in the trade with, we'll do 2 or 3 more right now. Guy that I'm in the trade with has nothing better than Cooks. He's last in the league, but I'll try to get another player. Yeah, you got to get another player, Devin. I think there's too much value coming from your end, especially with Deebo Samuel and how much he gets. I did this with a player who was bottom of my league too, and at that point you just push for another player, I think. I know it kind of seems like wrong, but they're trying to make moves, but you are as well. You need to get value out of that deal. Thanks so much. Appreciated. Definitely subscribing. Thank you, Devin. I appreciate you all being here right now. Just offered him from Shane Jacobs and Judy for Chase and Swift. Should I throw something in? Start there. Keep that wavelength going. I mean, if he doesn't like it, or if they don't like it, excuse me, if she doesn't like it, kind of just go where you can with that. But start there. I wouldn't throw anything too valuable in. You know, some people are stubborn. If they don't like the first deal, they're done with you. I personally, if that happens, I don't like the deal. I try and keep the conversation going because they see value in my team, and if I see value in theirs, let's do it, right? Let's just negotiate a bit. If you have like the worst player on your bench, throw them in. Otherwise, don't throw anything in. That's a pretty fair deal. Thanks, man. Shane, never throw in more if you don't have to. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Like, start with this. Start with this. I think that's pretty fair for both sides. Kind of want to try and get a trade through the guy I'm playing has a God squad. Oh, you're trying to get the trade through soon. And you want to get that W this week against the God squad. Your recommendation is to wait and see. Well, the thing with Swift, man, is he's not playing this week. So even if you're looking for a now solution, I mean, that's kind of what you have to look at. I understand it's intimidating. You want to beat someone with a God squad, but if you think that Swift gives you a better chance to win more games down the road, maybe we just walk into this week and hope some magic happens for us. That's what I would say. Legacy, thanks for dropping in. Make sure you like and subscribe, man. Doing everything I can to answer all your questions. Would you trade Dobbins for Christian Kirk? I'm good on running backs. I have Walker and ETN on the bench. Nice. Walker and ETN on my bench. Nice. Christian Kirk was pretty high usage early on. They've got a tough matchup this week against Indianapolis. I keep bringing that up. So, yeah, you're just trying to get rid of Dobbins for value. Let's see here. Let's go targets. Targets on the whole 9 yards. There's a random ad. Okay. Yeah, it's been more of Kenyon Drake on the field than I think people realize. Like Davis and their Patrick Ricard. Where else will you see so many running backs get used? Only in Baltimore. I mean, they are based on the run. They don't do it as high of a frequency anymore, but Harbaugh prides himself in making sure that his team gets it going. Yeah, T-Law has been it's kind of all I need to see there. He's under 4 yards per carry in a well-diversified backfield. T-Law's been spreading the ball around a lot, but I do like Kirk going forward. This week's just going to be tough. I'm going to be transparent with you. Indianapolis has got a pretty good secondary, but they also got 24-0 against Jacksonville in week 1. So, yeah, I would say that's pretty fair. Other options are Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, AJ Dillon, and Hines. He also has Lamb, but no way I'm getting him too. Devin, let's look at your deal again. Deebo Samuel and Zeke for Dalvin and Brandon Cooks. Dalvin Cook and Hines. Try that because like you're saying, you're probably not gonna be able to get him to throw Lamb in there, and you don't want to scare him away, right? With a preposterous deal. Try and get him to throw Hines in there if you have a roster spot to give up. If Hines is not better than the worst guy on your roster, in your opinion, and you can run that by me in the comment section once I'm done with this video, because I'm going to be finishing up soon, guys, just do the, I would say just go with it. But try and get as much value as you can out of the trade. I could also give Godwin for him, legacy, for Kirk. Godwin's been kind of injury prone. I'm not sure you're going to get them to bite on that deal. Right, he's played in 3 games out of 5 so far. 16 for 19, though, so, I mean, when he does play, he's obviously doing very well. He's been the staple for that team for a couple of years now, along with Mike Evans. And Brady does spread the ball around. I think that Godwin's a better player when he's playing. And I think he can, he's active right now. Injuries haven't been too consequential. Give Dobbins first. I think Godwin's a better player. So don't give more than you have to. Adam, looking long-term, currently 4-1 and have decent depth in my opinion. Cool, thanks, man. Yep, anytime. G the X, what's up? How are you? Jacobs is on bye too for Shane. He rejected it. I'm debating on throwing in Connor. If you would like, I mean, Connor does have those injury issues, and we're going to have Eno come in. I don't think Connor has that running back 1 spot locked down if Eno has a nice stretch when Connor's gone. I think it turns into more of a committee situation. So, yeah, I would throw in Connor. That's probably your next best bet. Thank you all for all the questions in here. I appreciate you tuning in. If you came in late, I did 4 guys who do not deserve to be on your fantasy team anymore. High-profile names. I'm not going to spoil it. You got to go back and watch for that. But like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I appreciate all of your support. I'm Corey Sparks on Armchair Athletes. I do a lot of YouTube shorts as well just to try and do everything I can to help the situation with your fantasy team. We've got socials in there as well, social media platforms if you want to contact me on those with any of your questions at all. And we will see you next time.